If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now it's the final days of our Everything's on Sale event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses. Our Memorial Day event ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
And away we go. Episode 1334 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, May 27th, 2026. It is the first OTA day for the Washington Commanders in the NFL's 2026 offseason. A happy OTA day to those who celebrate. The team this week is conducting the first of three-day sessions of OTAs this offseason, May 27th through the 29th. June 2nd through the 4th, and June 9th through the 11th, and the team is conducting a 3-day mandatory minicamp from June 16th through the 18th. OTAs are organized team activities. No live contact is permitted, but 7-on-7, 9-on-7, and 11-on-11 drills are permitted. And OTAs, like the rest of an NFL team's offseason program, with the exception of the mandatory minicamp, are, wait for it, voluntary. For how many years have there been discussions about who does and does not show up for OTA days, right? We as Washington fans have danced this dance with quite a few players. Will we dance the dance this offseason? I would expect that left tackle Laremy Tunsil will not be in attendance for Wednesday's OTA day, as he traditionally does his own thing in off seasons. But you know what? Tunsil is an elite left tackle. Doing his own thing is part of his process. I can live with him not being at these OTA days if, in fact, he isn't going to be at the team's OTA days this offseason. Understand this about Laremy Tunsil. He is, as head coach Dan Quinn likes to say, quote, a dog-ass competitor, end quote.
This is a dog-ass competitor.
Yes, thank you, Dan. Quote, a dog-ass competitor, end quote. We expect both Dan Quinn and quarterback Jayden Daniels to speak to reporters on Wednesday. Will Quinn call someone one of his favorite phrases, quote, a dog-ass competitor, end quote? I sure hope so.
This is a dog-ass competitor.
Exactly. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Next segment, the second of two conversations over 2 episodes of this podcast with one of our favorites, Washington Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack. We on this installment of the podcast are going to get into a popular topic right now, whether Washington has done enough to help its QB1, Jayden Daniels. A lot of ways to look at that question. Also, I'll ask Ben whether it might be worth it for Washington to trade for San Francisco 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk now in order to have him for the bulk of offseason practices and training camp. And I, with Ben, will pose multiple Washington Commanders, Washington Wizards compare and contrast questions, as Ben is really good at talking Wizards. And our Wizards, of course, have the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NBA draft, which is next month. Ben Standig, next segment. And also on the show, I'll talk Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles. Each team on Tuesday evening got a win against a good team thanks to good pitching. The Nats now are at least 2 games above 500 at the latest point in a regular season since being 40-38 through games on June 30th, 2021. The Nats won their 4th consecutive game, a 6-3 win at the American League Central, leading Cleveland Guardians. Cade Cavalli allowed 1 run in 6 innings with 7 strikeouts. The O's won for the 4th time in 5 games, a 6-1 win over the American League leading Tampa Bay Rays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Shane Baz allowed 1 run in 7 innings with 9 strikeouts. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, give the podcast a 5-star rating. On the podcast, we'll read whatever you write in writing a review of the podcast, and what you write can be a sports take. You don't just have to write about the podcast. From Isaac M777 on Apple Podcasts, writes Isaac, I've been listening for a couple of years now, both on Odyssey and now Apple Podcasts. Al is informative and professional in his discussion of Washington sports teams. I love his no-fluff approach, no talk about the last thing he ate or drank or his dentist appointment. Just worthwhile content on my beloved Washington sports teams. Thank you very much for that, Isaac. You know, I could talk about my dentist, the great Dr. Yoon of North Bethesda, Maryland. Excellent staff, very nice people. One of the husbands of one of the staff members is a loyal listener to this podcast. I appreciate that very much. And Dr. Yoon years ago gave me good advice that I follow to this day. So I years ago had some stains on my teeth. Nothing too bad, but enough to where I would go in for my cleanings, and he had to spend some time getting the stains off. And I drink a lot of protein shakes, and he recommended after drinking things like protein shakes and coffee, just rinsing my mouth with water. Just a simple, quick rinse immediately after consuming a protein shake, coffee, etc. And just like that, the staining has lessened. A simple but effective tactic for reducing staining of your teeth. A simple, quick rinse of your mouth with water after drinking your protein shake or coffee or tea or anything else that can stain your teeth. There you go. So I guess I just did talk about my dentist appointment. From John Cooper on X, off our conversation with former Washington offensive coordinator Scott Turner on Monday's show, episode 1332, during which we discussed his dad, former Washington Redskins head coach Norv Turner, including his 1999 team that won the NFC East and went 1-1 in the postseason. And I played part of NFL Films' yearbook piece on the 1999 Redskins, writes John. I loved hearing audio from the Skins' 99 yearbook. I had it on VHS back in the day. Thank you for that, John. If we only knew back in the day that VHS tapes would become obsolete, we wouldn't have bought so many of them and put together so many of them, right? I mean, I still have a ton of VHS tapes from back in the day, many of which were given to me as gifts, like these greatest sports legends tapes about all-time great baseball players like Brooks Robinson and Frank Robinson. I can't tell you how many times I watched those tapes as a kid. I recorded a bunch of stuff that I saved. I recorded MLB All-Star games. I recorded an episode of ESPN's NFL Primetime from, I believe, week 1 of the 1994 regular season. Still have that. I recorded hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of pro wrestling, especially during the Monday Night Wars. And I still have most, if not all of this stuff. But, of course, we don't have a VCR. And, of course, that technology now is obsolete. But at the same time, I can't just bring myself to throw all of these tapes away, so I just have them somewhere. And the other thing, of course, is that so much of this stuff now is available digitally, including on YouTube. All of these VHS tapes and DVDs from back in the day, all for nothing. Hey, if you would like to grow your business or practice, consider advertising on this podcast, which just recently was the number 56 podcast in the country on Apple Podcasts in the highly competitive U.S. football category. Podcast advertising works, and it's very affordable. Put the power of the pod to work for you. Get your message out there to thousands of successful people in the Washington, D.C. area. We'd love to have you on board. Email us to see what we can do for you. The email address is thealgaldypodcast@yahoo.com.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
We've all been there. You're away for the weekend, the big game is on, and you realize you're restricted from watching. Or maybe you're trying to check the latest lines on your betting app, but your local network is blocking the site. These are the ultimate unforced errors. You can prevent this from happening to you with IPVanish. IPVanish is the powerhouse VPN designed to keep you in the game no matter where you are. IPVanish helps you stay connected to your favorite team and streaming services while you travel, but it's not just about watching the game. For the bettors out there, IPVanish provides an extra layer of security and privacy that helps you access your account safely on public Wi-Fi. Plus, IPVanish is lightning fast, so you won't have to worry about lag during those crucial live betting moments. Right now, get a massive discount at IPVanish.com. That's IPVanish.com to get started today. Secure your play and go to IPVanish.com.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now it's the final days of our Everything's on Sale event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses. Our Memorial Day event ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good night's sleep.
Good to have you with us. Time now for the second of two conversations this week with a good friend of the Al Galdi podcast, Washington Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack. Ben joined us on Tuesday's show, episode 1333, during which we discussed quarterback Jayden Daniels and previewed position battles for Washington in the 2026 offseason, as we now are entering the practice portion of the offseason with OTAs beginning on Wednesday. We, in this conversation with Ben, are going to examine the question of whether Washington has done enough to help Jayden Daniels, and we're going to have some scheduled fun with some Washington Commanders, Washington Wizards compare and contrast questions. You can read Ben's work at lastmanstanding.substack.com. He also is the host of the Last Man Standing podcast. You can follow Ben on X at Ben Standig. So a popular question has become whether Washington has done enough to help Jayden Daniels, with help being about the talent around Daniels. NFL columnist and reporter Ralph Vacchiano of Fox Sports, he on May 20th came out with a FoxSports.com piece, headline, quote, "Which NFL QBs have the most help?" ranking all 32 supporting casts, end quote. Vacchiano ranked Washington number 28 out of 32 NFL teams in supporting cast. Quote, "There seems to be a belief in Washington that the return of a healthy Jayden Daniels will make everybody better. They better be right, though, because the Commanders didn't do a lot to improve his supporting cast in the offseason. Their best weapon by far is still WR Terry McLaurin, who will be 31 in September and coming off an injury-plagued season. Their offensive line improved last year, but they haven't replaced their center, who left in free agency. The only weapon the Commanders added in the passing game was solid and underrated T.E. Chigoziem Okonkwo. They did add veteran RB Rashad White, who could make for a potent duo with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who had a surprisingly good rookie season after being drafted in the 7th round. Don't underestimate the loss of offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, though. He got a lot of credit for helping Daniels post arguably the best rookie season ever for a quarterback. He's now replaced by former quarterbacks coach David Blau, who has been an assistant for 2 seasons and has never called plays before," end quote. Okay, so that to me is an overly harsh, overly critical, overly pessimistic assessment of Washington's supporting cast for Jayden Daniels. But I do think that there's a conversation here of whether the team has done enough to support Daniels. So I ask you, what's your answer to the question of whether Washington has done enough to support Jayden Daniels?
Not as much as I would like. I mean, look, they've invested in the offensive line, right? That counts. Although there are still currently questions at center, at least. But like, did they upgrade at tight end? Athletically, sure, but I don't know if they did otherwise, right? Because Zach Ertz was a massive weapon for Jayden Daniels at tight end. So either way, like neither guy's, I don't know if they've upgraded. We'll see. Athletically, yes, but overall, time will tell. Receiver, it's basically the same group they had in 2024, Terry McLaurin and a bunch of other guys. If they bring in Diggs or Aiyuk, fine. But even then, we'll have to see. And, Diggs is, can be 32, 33. Aiyuk, obviously, massive questions. The running back room, look, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt may be the real deal. He looked pretty good last year. He was a 7th-round pick. It's not like that was a major investment. And Rashad White was a pretty cheap backup that they added. But then you look at like the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams. They also spent a lot of money on their offensive line, and they've drafted Roma Dunze, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland last year, right? The Patriots, they go out this offseason, get Romeo Doubs. It appears they're going to get A.J. Brown, right? So that's a thing. Bo Nix, they went make a big trade to get Jalen Waddle. I mean, look, they have a much better defense than Washington, but they were like, no, we need to go do something here. So, and look, they didn't have well, I guess you could say they had a Terry McLaurin, right? Because they have what's his face. I'm blanking. Who's Denver's other receiver?
You about Sutton?
Yeah, Cortland Sutton. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, look, they tried to get Alec Pierce. Okay, like, was he really leaving Indy? Obviously, no. They tried to get Dobbs. That one seems like it was tough, and maybe he just decided that New England was in a better situation. This is pre-Vrabel controversy. But maybe the money was just a little bit better. So I know they tried, but yeah, ultimately 3 years into this, the receiver room is it better than it was from year one? I don't think you can say that. And, again, they haven't made a huge investment at running back. It is a little bit odd to me that they haven't done more when you only have this guy for this short amount of time on a rookie deal. And this is, we're getting to the end, closer to the end than we're not. So I would have thought they would have done a little bit more.
That Washington this offseason has done a lot to address the defense. Do you buy that as the team helping Jayden Daniels? Because I do, but what say you?
I mean, to a degree, sure. I mean, because what was the stat somebody had the other day? It was like in Jayden Daniels' young career, it's like when they scored 24 more points, the record is X. Oh no, when the defense allows 24 points or less, like they have an excellent record. When it's 24 over, the crappy record. I know that's really specific. So sure, in that regard, if they get more turnovers, right, that would certainly help the cause. But look, again, I get it that it's hard to, you can't necessarily do everything. They still have decent amount of cap space, right? Let's put it like this. I always use this as an example with the Wizards when they lost out on Al Horford in the 2016 free agency. And instead of just saying, okay, we didn't get that, now what? They were like, oh my God, we have all this money burning a hole in our pocket. Let's just give it to somebody, and they give a terrible deal to Jan Mahimi. I'm glad that the Commanders didn't go out and give stupid money to somebody because they just felt like they had to do something. So I'm good with that. And this was not necessarily a deep receiver room. However it would to be. Last year was maybe the more egregious time, frankly, because again, where was the depth? And you knew Noah Brown's injury history, and Terry was holding out. But all that said, yeah, I at some point here, I wish they would have done more, and I think they should have done more at receiver.
Regarding Washington potentially acquiring San Francisco 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk, something that I've wondered is this. So obviously, I'd rather Washington, if it wants the guy, to get him via signing him as an unrestricted free agent off having been released by the Niners, as opposed to trading something to the Niners for him. But the Niners very clearly are in no rush to release Aiyuk, have no contractual reason to release Aiyuk for quite some time. So might it be worth it for Washington, if the trade compensation is low, to trade for Aiyuk now or sometime soon in order to get him with the team for offseason practices and then training camp, as opposed to potentially not getting him until shortly before the start of the regular season? Like, if the trade compensation is as little as a 6th-round pick or a 7th-round pick, or trading a 6th-round pick to the Niners for Aiyuk and a 7th-round pick, something like that, might that minimal draft capital be worth having Aiyuk with the team for the bulk of offseason practices and training camp?
No, it's a great question. We're assuming that the contract would be completely restructured such that Washington's only on the hook for 1 year, some money. Okay, so if we're saying that, there is some merit to that. I mean, if you're going to do this, like I'm not in favor of the Hawaii thing because we just don't know what the hell's going on here. But if you're going to do it, then do it, right? And I do think he needs to be here. I mean, yeah, he was Jayden Daniels' teammate. That was forever ago. That was pre-COVID. That's not a thing. So, and not to mention, David Blau. Like, I'm not saying David Blau can't incorporate him in, but you're going to put more pressure on David Blau to, at the last minute, have to figure out how to use this guy when he's in his, still learning the ropes himself. So maybe to your point, yes, but I suspect you can play that game of chicken at least until you get closer to training camp. Then you have to decide, okay, is this worth it or not? Because he should be there for the start of training camp if this is going to happen. That I would say that.
The conversation does not have to be as simple as Brandon Aiyuk or Stephon Diggs, who is an unrestricted free agent, but I know that you are not a big fan of Washington acquiring Aiyuk. You would prefer that the team sign Diggs. Is that correct?
I'm just saying, if you're gonna go down the path of some level of uncertainty, and Diggs' uncertainty comes in different ways. The age thing. How close is he to falling off? He had over 1,000 yards last year. He did play more like even outside in the slot, perhaps an indication that his speed just isn't there anymore. But from a competitive perspective, from a production perspective, he's been really good every year. Whereas like Aiyuk, not only is there all the questions about what happened with San Francisco, how did he blow this up, but we haven't seen him play since 2024 and so on. So I think I would prefer Diggs, but that's at least me saying the certainty cost, more than like I just don't know what to make of anything over here.
A big part of all of this, of course, is that Washington still does not have a true number 2 receiver. It would be nice if someone had emerged into that role in recent seasons, but that has not happened. 4 receivers currently on Washington beyond the WR1, Terry McLaurin, are Antonio Williams, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, and Treylon Burks. Who are you most bullish on out of those 4 guys?
I mean, I guess Williams, it's like, it's like people love recruits. And draft picks, like it's the unknown. Like, I mean, yeah, we saw him play at Clemson, but you can assign anything you want to what he's going to be. This excellent route runner with 4.41 speed, who's gonna, Jayden's gonna find him in open spots, and that's gonna cause havoc. He can play inside, he can play outside. Sure, the intrigue with him is easier to say than Luke McCaffrey, who hasn't done a ton in 2 years last year because of injury, or Jalen Lane, who was really good as a punt returner, but didn't show much of anything as a receiver. What do we make of them? Treylon Burks, I'm not putting him above like a role player at this point. I know some people think he's like the second receiver. I don't see that. Again, people can improve. He was the number 1 pick, but I don't see him as that kind of a consistent play-to-play guy for that to happen. So I guess I would have to say Williams. Of the other 3, honestly, I'm buying back into Luke McCaffrey a little bit. I mean, he did have 3 touchdowns on only 9 catches. He does seem to make big plays, and I understand like you'd like more, but the big plays are pretty good too. So and I just think that when people are trying to view him as like, well, play him opposite Terry. No. If he's your 4th or 5th receiver, okay, now I'm more intrigued. And I know that's, again, deeper down the bench, but a creative offense knows how to use those guys, right? So I'm a little, of the 3 coming back, I'm intrigued by him.
We're talking with Washington Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack. I always enjoy talking Washington Wizards with you. You cover the Wizards for years, so still have a lot of passion for the Wizards. Talk about the Wizards a good bit. And so I have some Washington Commanders, Washington Wizards compare and contrast questions for you. That our team won the 2026 NBA Draft Lottery off years of horrendous NBA Draft Lottery luck remains remarkable. Which monumental draft decision was/is the more difficult decision? Which quarterback the Washington Commanders took with their number 2 overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft? Or which player the Washington Wizards should take with their number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NBA Draft?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like I was in on Jayden Daniels fairly early. Now, is that because I thought that was going to be the pick? So I was just trying to like, wow, makes sense. But, when I talked to people, I remember there was a lot more questions about Drake May in talking to some people than there were about Jayden Daniels. And, look, we'll see what happens. I mean, Drake May was obviously really good last year. Wasn't that good in the playoffs. He didn't elevate his game, whereas Jayden certainly, in those first 2 games in particular, was as good as he was in the regular season, and maybe even a bit more. And then, even in Philly, I mean, the offense was doing something. They just couldn't stop Philly on any level. So to me, that one maybe feels a tick easier. The Wizards one, I mean, look, AJ Debance, the forward out of BYU, feels like the number 1 guy. But depending on who you talk to, the Darren Peterson, the guard out of Kansas, who had a very odd year because he missed a bunch of time with cramping or some other stuff, and it was a question about what's going on with him. Some people really like Cameron Boozer, the big man from Duke. Not so much for me for the Wizards, because I just don't. The upside doesn't seem to be as good as the other guys, and I think the Wizards should go for upside. There's also Caleb Wilson, the real athletic big man, kind of skinny, but he's got this sort of Sean Kempian hops, vibes, whatever. I don't think they're all even. I would probably again say DeBonsa, but the Peterson part of it, I mean, he was the number 1 guy going into the year. And if the reality is like whatever he's saying about what happened to him physically, if the teams buy it, then maybe it becomes a much tougher decision. So yeah, I feel like to me that one is a tougher one for now. Just in part because the Peterson thing is like it's sort of like with Aiyuk to a degree. Like I don't know, so the uncertainty makes me squeamish.
All right, how about this one? Which team will make the playoffs next? The Washington Commanders or Washington Wizards?
I think it's the Wizards. I mean, I'm not saying the Commanders can't, but in a league where 8 teams can get in and we're watching the Eastern Conference stink, I get. Look, I guess is Anthony Davis playing, like, not just on the Wizards? Is he actually healthy? Is Trae Young fit in, or do people want to wring his neck? I'm going to assume, if we assume both of those things work and DeBonta comes in and all the current kids take a step up, I think the Wizards can be somewhere in the 6 to 8 seed range. I don't think that's crazy. And they still have more money to spend. Like, the back of their bench was like a bunch of like two-way players and like random free agents who cost no money. They can actually now spend a little bit to get some vets. Again, I'm not saying that the Commanders can't, but like somebody asked me this the other day, and then I posed this on the radio the other day, and I'll ask you, Al Galdi, make your prediction. What's the order of the NFC East this season? Because if you can tell me that Washington is definitely a top 1 or 2, cool. I don't know the order on any level, so that's why to me it's like I can't just say they're getting in.
Absolutely. And as we know with the NFC East, it has been wildly unpredictable for years. Final question. All things considered, and that is a big part of this question, all things considered, which front office has done the better job? The Washington Commanders front office, led by General Manager Adam Peters, who was hired in January 2024, or the Washington Wizards front office, led by Monumental Basketball President Michael Winger, who was hired in May 2023, and Wizards General Manager Will Dawkins, who was hired in June 2023.
Good question. So again, it's almost hard to compare. Like, I part of me wants to say the Wizards, but that's like Peters and company had to overcome all the mismanagement that happened during the Snyder era, for sure. And a lot of things worked out, right? They come in, they're a terrible team. They get the number 2 pick, so they get to take a quarterback. Like the last 2 years, the number 2 pick did not mean a quarterback, but that year it did. So, okay, you get a little bit lucky with that. But there's, the draft picks have been a little uneven, right? I think that's fair to say. Last year was obviously a mess. The Wizards, they have done all the right things. They finally got the owner to abandon this play-in game 8 seed garbage and go down to become a way station for other contracts to get more picks. The 6 picks that they've already made all look pretty good. I don't know if there's a first, second, third team all pro there, or but like they all look pretty good, but they haven't done anything yet because they've been just purposely losing. So it's not like they're only starting now. So like if the Wizards go out this year and don't do what I just said, make the playoffs, what's going on here? How did you what? So I'll say the Wizards, but in fairness, they just haven't been on the same stage yet that the Commanders have.
Yeah, this is the best that I felt about the Wizards since they won Game 6 of their Eastern Conference semifinal series against the Boston Celtics in the 2017 NBA playoffs. And I get that we can't yet say that the rebuild has worked, but we can say that the rebuild is working. And I do think that Michael Winger and Will Dawkins have done a terrific job of running the Wizards.
No, and they still have, again, not saying they have a million assets like the Thunder, but they have other assets down the pike. When they traded away a couple first-round picks in the Anthony Davis trade, those first-round picks, like, this is not the NBA, this is not the NFL where, like, any pick is valuable. Later first-round picks, yeah, sure, a guy could be good, but it really starts to fall off somewhere in the 20s, and it's just dart throws kind of from there on out. It's fine, but they still have other assets to boot after that. So, yeah, no, they've done a really good job. Like I said, we'll see. I think with the Commanders, right, what they did this offseason, particularly on the defense, if the defense can be league average and Jayden Daniels is healthy, boy, I mean, that could be a double-digit win season. So if those bets pay off with Owe and Chason and Styles, then hey, kudos to the front office. Whereas again, the Wizards haven't had to do that yet. They traded for Trae Young and Anthony Davis, but they didn't give up much, and they can get out of those deals if they want fairly easily. So it's a different deal, but both teams have done some good stuff. But yeah, Wizards.
Another question could be, which defense do you trust less, the Washington Commanders defense or the Washington Wizards defense? But that can be for another time. Washington Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack. Ben, thanks. All the best.
Always appreciate it, Al. Thanks.
All right. Always good to talk to Ben. And if you have a case, talk to Chris Nace, the Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. It will fight for you and win for you. Lead attorney Chris Nace is a big Washington Commanders fan and big supporter of this podcast. And his firm wins trials. So just recently, an $8 million jury verdict in Baltimore City Circuit Court. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group is tremendous. It is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. Well, the Washington Nationals now are at least 2 games above 500 at the latest point in a regular season since being 40-38 through games on June 30th, 2021. The Nats won their 4th consecutive game, a 6-3 win at the Cleveland Guardians on Tuesday evening in Game 2 of a 3-game series. The win gives the Nats their longest winning streak in MLB's 2026 regular season, in which they now are 29-27 with a run differential of -3, and the 29-27 is made up of the Nats being a remarkable 19-11 on the road versus 10-16 at home. The Nats now are an impressive 4-1 on this 6-game road trip comprised of 2 3-game series, each of which was/is against one of the best teams in MLB in the National League leading Atlanta Braves and American League Central leading Cleveland Guardians. And the number one reason that the Nats are having such a good road trip is their pitching. Their starting pitcher in this 6-3 win at the Guardians on Tuesday evening was Cade Cavalli. He was good for a 4th consecutive outing. He allowed 1 run in 6 innings with 7 strikeouts. He gave up 5 hits, which were a double and 4 singles. He issued 2 walks. He threw a lot of strikes, 87 pitches, 61 strikes, just 26 balls. He per StatCast threw 5 different pitches, and his velocity was up on 4 of them, including an average 4-seam fastball velocity of 97.1 miles per hour. His stuff usually is good. His stuff lately has been especially good. So much to like about Cavalli in this outing. He, even in the inning in which he gave up the run, did some good things. Cavalli, in the bottom of the 5th, allowed a run on 2 singles, a walk, and a sac fly, but he did a nice job of limiting the damage as the Guardians had the bases loaded with 1 out, but he then retired their numbers 2 and 3 batters in Jose Ramirez and Chase DeLauder. The run scored on a 1-out RBI sac fly by Ramirez. Cade Cavalli now in this regular season, 12 games, all starts. ERA of 3.62, whip of 1.41, strikeouts per 9 innings of 10.26, and he has been really good over his last 4 outings. Cavalli in the Nats' 5-2 loss at the Miami Marlins on May 10th, 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings, 4 strikeouts versus 1 walk. Cavalli in the Nats' 13-3 win over the Baltimore Orioles at Nationals Park on May 16th officially allowed 3 runs in 6 1/3 innings, but the last of the runs was scored with him out of the game, and he had 8 strikeouts versus no walks. Cavalli in the Nats' 2-1 loss to the New York Mets at Nationals Park last Thursday, May 21st, allowed 2 runs in 7 innings with 9 strikeouts versus 1 walk, and now we have what we had with Cavalli on Tuesday evening. And how about Nats starting pitchers over the team's last 6 games? If you go by the starting pitching rotation, so we are including bulk pitchers in games in which openers were used, but Cade Cavalli, Miles Michaelis, Jake Irvin, Foster Griffin, Zach Littell, and then Cade Cavalli again over the Nats' last 6 games have combined for the following stats: ERA of 1, 39 strikeouts versus 7 walks. Outstanding. We, during Nats manager Blake Buteris' postgame session with reporters on Tuesday night, had these exchanges regarding Cade Cavalli and the recent work of Nats starting pitchers.
About a month ago, you had said something to the effect that Cade is kind of like a blank canvas for you guys where he's still figuring out who he is. Do you feel like he's getting closer to understanding what makes him great?
Yeah, I think you can really see just the confidence and the comfort on the mound more and more each time he's out there. He looks like he's having a blast out there. He feels really good. He's confident in his stuff. He's confident in his execution. It's just fun to watch him pitch when he feels like that.
And where do you think that confidence comes from?
I think he's just going out there and getting better each time. The work that he's put in with our pitching coaches to kind of understand his repertoire and how to use it most effectively, and then the job Capert does behind the plate calling the game is outstanding.
Is there something that he does, like on the mound or before a game, that kind of shows you this confidence that he has now?
No, I think just the way he walks around, the way he is with his teammates, the way he is coming into the game, the way he comes in off the field in between innings. There's just a lot of confidence, a lot of bounce there in his step that makes you just feel really good about what he's going to do when he goes out there.
Cade credited Capert in his last start when he went 7 innings. Just what do you like about those two and how they kind of work off each other and work well with each other?
Yeah, our catchers, both of them, Capert, Drew, they've both done an outstanding job of calling a game, communicating with our pitchers, and also getting them back on track. Maybe if mechanics get offline a little bit or things start to slip, they do a really good job of going out there, talking to our pitchers, getting them back on track, back on focus, and locked in again. And to have those two guys back behind the plate, you feel really good about the control they have with our pitchers.
Your rotation is a 1 ERA over the last 6 starts. What's it been like watching that?
It makes my life a lot easier when those guys go out there and do what they've done recently against some really good lineups and teams that have really swung the bats well. You know, Cade's facing 9 left-handed hitters today. It's not easy, right? Yeah, they keep getting better and better, and it definitely makes it more fun in the dugout for us when they're pitching the way they are.
You've talked about attacking the zone as kind of the key to them sustaining that. Is there anything else, though, that you've seen them as a unit do over the last week or the last few weeks in particular that stands out from an approach perspective that's really helped them thrive?
Not really. I think it's really just being able to land multiple pitches in the zone early in counts and set themselves up better the rest of the way. When you're falling behind 1-0, 2-0, it's really tough to pitch in this league against these hitters. So the job they're doing of not just throwing strike one with the fastball, but being able to throw a breaking ball in there or a changeup to keep the hitters off balance and behind in counts to set themselves up for the rest of the at-bat. I think that's the thing that we've been seeing a lot recently.
And the Nats in this 6-3 win at the Guardians on Tuesday evening used just one relief pitcher, who was Mitchell Parker. He allowed 2 runs in 3 innings with 5 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He, in the bottom of the 9th, allowed 2 runs and giving up a walk, a single, and a double. But he got the save, and he, to me, overall was good. Like I said, 5 strikeouts versus 1 walk. And the Nats, over the first 2 games of this series, have used a total of just 4 pitchers. Opener P.J. Poulin and bulkman Zach Littell in the 10-2 win at the Guardians on Monday evening, and now Cade Cavalli and Mitchell Parker in this 6-3 win at the Guardians on Tuesday evening. And this was yet another game in which the Nats offense was really good. 6 runs, 11 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 9 singles. 5 walks, 3 for 7 with runners in scoring position. The Nats got to Guardian starting pitcher Joey Cantillo, who allowed 4 runs in 2 innings. He came into the game with an ERA of 3.05 over 11 games, all starts in this regular season, as the Nats, for a second time in 2 games in this series, made a good Guardian starting pitcher look bad. The Nats, in that 10-2 win at the Guardians on Monday evening, hit a whopping 5 home runs of Guardian starting pitcher Tanner Bybee, who allowed 7 runs in 3 innings. He came into that game with an ERA of 3.75 over 11 games, all starts in this regular season. Some offensive standouts for the Nats on Tuesday evening. James Wood, he is the Nats starting left fielder and number 1 batter, 3 for 4 with a 2-run homer, 2 singles, and a walk. And he had a stolen base. Wood, in the Nats' 4-run second, had a 1-out, 2-run homer to right field for a 4-0 Nats lead. The homer went a projected 401 feet per StatCast. Wood, for this regular season, now has an OPS of 964. Keibert Ruiz, he is the Nats starting catcher and number 9 batter, went 2 for 4 with a 2-run single and another single. Ruiz, in the Nats' 4-run second, had a 1-out, 2-run seeing eye single into left center field on a 1-2 pitch for a 2-0 Nats lead. Ruiz, in the top of the 6th, had a 2-out single ball off the outfield wall in right field, although he got thrown out by a mile in trying to advance to second base, as the Nats in this game did make some outs on the base pass. But let us not lose sight of what Keibert Ruiz is doing. He, for this month of May, now has an OPS of 1,044. He, for this regular season, now has an OPS of 763. Andres Chaparro, as the Nats starting first baseman and number 3 batter, went 1 for 5, but the one was a 2-run single. Chaparro in the Nats' 2-run ninth had a 2-out 2-run single to left field for a 6-1 Nats lead, although he got thrown out in trying to advance to second base. And Curtis Mead, as the Nats starting third baseman and number 2 batter, went 0 for 3, but drew 2 walks, so did get thrown out in an attempted steal of second base. But Curtis Mead continues to produce. He, for this regular season, now has an OPS of 834. The Nats for this regular season remain number 1 in MLB in runs scored and dead last in MLB in runs allowed. That is quite the juxtaposition for this team. Number 1 in MLB in runs scored, dead last in MLB in runs allowed. 304 runs scored, 307 runs allowed. Game 3 for the Nats at the Guardians Wednesday afternoon at 1:10. The Nats have listed Miles Mikolas as their probable starting pitcher for the game.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now it's the final days of our Everything's on Sale event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses. Our Memorial Day event ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
So the Baltimore Orioles have a long way to go until we truly feel good about them in MLB's 2026 regular season, but they now have won 4 of their last 5 games. A 6-1 win over the American League leading Tampa Bay Rays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Tuesday evening in Game 2 of a 3-game series. This off the wild 9-7 13-inning win over the Rays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Monday afternoon. The O's now are 25-30. Their starting pitcher on Tuesday evening was Shane Baz, and he was good for a 3rd consecutive outing in being good against his former team. For a 2nd consecutive outing, Baz allowed 1 run in 7 innings with 9 strikeouts. Terrific. He gave up 7 hits, which were a double, and 6 singles, issued 2 walks, threw a lot of strikes, 99 pitches, 69 strikes, just 30 balls. So the O's this past December 19th announced having traded 4 prospects and a draft pick to the Rays for Baz. The O's gave up a lot for Baz, and then on March 27th announced having agreed with him on a 5-year contract for the 2026 through 2030 seasons. Baz, in this regular season, over his first 8 games, all starts, had an ERA of 5.48, but he, over his last 3 games, all starts, has been quite good. Baz in the Orioles' 3-2 loss at the Washington Nationals on May 15th allowed 3 runs in 7 innings. Baz in the Orioles' 5-3 loss at the Tampa Bay Rays last Wednesday afternoon, May 20th, allowed 1 run in 6 innings with 6 strikeouts. And now we have what Baz did on Tuesday evening. Here was O's manager Craig Alpernaz during his post-game press conference on Tuesday night on Shane Baz, and then you'll hear a follow-up exchange between O's insider Rich Dubroff of BaltimoreBaseball.com and Alpernaz.
Yeah, really impressive. It just speaks to the pitcher that Shane is and the stuff he has. Yeah, tonight was awesome. Like, he was really efficient with his pitches. I love the changeup usage. I mean, I think he got close to 10%. It's just another wrinkle for guys to honor, especially lefties, and it just opened up his curveball. And obviously the fastball is real. Like, to get out of some jams, he got to the elevated fastball to the top of the zone when he needed to with the velo in the tank. So it was a really impressive outing for Shane.
Do you see a different pitcher now than you did when the season started?
No, it's the same pitcher. Like, to me, it's all about throwing strikes, and being efficient. The stuff's the same. Obviously, like I talked about, the changeup is a new weapon for him that he's trying to harness, and just the way he went out there and competes. Like, to me, it's the same guy, but you can just see the efficiency attacking the strike zone and the confidence he's getting.
Very good to see Shane Baz doing better. Here was some of his post-game session with reporters on Tuesday night.
Is it tough to face a team twice in a week, especially a team that's as good as that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not easy. It makes it easy when Sammy calls a great game. No, he did awesome back there. Just kept it mixed up all night. You kind of got to take some things from the first outing and apply them and try and use your eyes and, watch a lot of the at-bats over again. But, I'm just happy that I was able to give us a chance today.
You're obviously going to pitch a lot to Sammy, over the next 5 years here. What's that relationship been like? How have you two kind of grown to know each other?
I mean, he's just, everything you could ask for. He busts his butt, never complains, does a really good job if I ask for something of just applying it right away, like really well. And, just a great teammate. But, no, he did awesome tonight. I love throwing to both our guys.
How has your changeup improved your overall arsenal?
I think it just keeps guys honest away, mostly lefties. Just something that comes out looking like a fastball with backspin that, is hard to pull. So, it's come a long way from the start of the year and was able to use it quite a bit tonight and was really happy with it. I think it just keeps lefties honest on the inner half, stuff like that. But, yeah.
You've been here now 2 months. Do you feel more comfortable now here than you did, let's say end of March, beginning of April?
Yeah, I mean, there's always an adjustment period of just learning people, learning how they like to operate, trying to just be the best, player and teammate that I can be every day. And yeah, just getting familiar with the catchers and stuff like that. French has been amazing the whole time. Clem and Plas have been amazing the whole time. So I feel like we've kind of started putting together good game plans and stuff, and just being a little more comfortable.
I know the first month or 6 weeks of the season didn't go the way that the rotation would have wanted it to go. Do you feel like you guys are starting to turn a corner here with the way you're throwing and Bradish and BY? Do you feel like you guys are starting to get some momentum here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the phrase of mid-season form, stuff like that. Just settling in and not trying to do too much every outing, but just kind of doing our best and staying locked in, making one pitch at a time, I think has been kind of the theme the past couple weeks where it's been really good. So, I think all of us have faith in each other, and we're just trying to keep the ball rolling.
All right. I've talked about the 3 Orioles starting pitchers, each with a last name starting with the letter B, killing the O's this season. The Killer Bees, but not in a good way. Kyle Bradish, Shane Baz, and Chris Bassett. Well, Bradish and Baz lately have been better. Got to get Bassett going. The Orioles relief pitching in this 6-1 win over the Rays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Tuesday evening was good. 2 Orioles relievers combined for 2 scoreless innings. Grant Wolfram tossed a scoreless top of the 8th despite giving up 2 singles. And Andrew Kittredge tossed a perfect top of the 9th. Also regarding the Orioles bullpen, the O's on Tuesday afternoon announced having recalled relief pitcher Nick Riquet from AAA Norfolk and announced having designated relief pitcher Dietrich Enns for assignment. Dietrich Enns getting DFA'd was surprising, but the O's pretty clearly are looking to keep him and are hoping that he passes through waivers. We'll see if that happens, but the team has DFA'd another relief pitcher, Albert Suarez, multiple times, but still has been able to keep him. The O's on Tuesday evening outscored the Rays 6-1, despite getting out-hit by the Rays 9-7. The Orioles' 7 hits were a home run and 6 singles, so the O's drew 2 walks and went 3 for 8 with runners in scoring position. The hit of the game came from Samuel Basallo. He is the Orioles starting catcher and number 4 batter, went 1 for 4 with a 3-run homer. Basallo in the Orioles' 3-run 5th had a 2-out, 3-run homer to right field for a 6-1 Orioles lead. Samuel Basallo for this regular season now has an OPS of .810 as he is doing what we hoped that he would do. I do not want to take this for granted. This guy is in just his age 21 season. The O's last August 17th announced having selected the contract of Basayo from AAA Norfolk. He, per MLB Pipeline at the time of being promoted to the majors, was the Orioles' #1 overall prospect and was the #8 overall prospect in baseball. Then the O's just 5 days later, August 22nd, announced having signed Basayo to a contract extension, which reportedly was an 8-year, $67 million contract extension that was to begin with this season and included a club option for the 2034 season and escalators that made the total package worth $88.5 million. And Samuel Basayo is delivering on the hype and on the contract. We, during Craig Albernaz's postgame press conference on Tuesday night, had this exchange.
With Sam specifically, just given his age and relative inexperience, what I guess are you most proud of is how he's kind of carried himself behind the scenes and to be ready for moments like this and others that we've seen throughout the season?
Sammy or Shane, sorry. Yeah, Sammy, it's been awesome to watch. Like we constantly talk about, he's only 21 years old. Didn't have a ton of reps in the minor leagues, and rightfully so, because he just outperformed the minor leagues, and there's going to be growing pains with him, but also the talent's real, and the way he can learn on the fly and adjust, it's really impressive what he can do, especially navigating the game behind the plate at the big league level, calling pitches, receiving, blocking, throwing, then going up there and hitting the middle of our order pretty much all year. It's been really impressive, and it's always challenging with young players like that to not ride the highs or the lows, just keep them even keel. And Sammy has a great support system around him, so it's been fun just to be a small part of his career.
Yeah, and another key young Orioles player, Jackson Holliday, who is in just his age 22 season. He is the Orioles starting second baseman and #9 batter, went 2 for 3 with an RBI single and another single. Holliday and the Orioles' 3-run second had a went-out, bases loaded, first pitch, opposite field, RBI single into left field for a 2-1 Orioles lead. Game 2 for the O's against the Rays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards Wednesday evening at 6:35. The O's have not yet officially announced a probable starting pitcher for the game, but they have a chance to complete a 3-game sweep of the best team in the American League, the Rays. We, during Craig Albernaz's postgame press conference on Tuesday night, had this exchange.
What do you think it says about your ball club, Craig, that the results that you guys had when you went to New York and then came back and showed a lot of fight, and then same thing with Tampa? I know the series isn't over yet, but you've responded with 2 wins after getting swept down there.
Yeah, it's just like we talked about pretty much all year. It's a resilient group, and also doesn't matter wins or losses. We have to have the ability to turn the page and focus on the next day, and that's what these guys are doing. They model it every single day, and so when they show up to the field, they're trying to win that night, and that's the only goal. And as I say that, I played with Johnny Gomes for a year. I don't know if you guys know him, but he has a quote that just stuck with me, and he's like, "This baseball is the greatest sport in the world." You show up each day, and every day you show up, you don't know if they're going to DFA you or your stuff's going to go to Cooperstown. You have no idea what's going to happen that day. So our guys just have the ability to show up each day and prepare to win, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, still a lot of work to do for the O's, but they are playing better. And that'll do it for you and me for now, but there's more to come. Thursday's show, episode 1335, will provide you with more on the Washington Commanders as they on Wednesday are beginning their OTAs for this offseason. Also on Thursday's show, I'll talk Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles. The Nats are at the Cleveland Guardians Wednesday afternoon at 1:10 for Game 3 of a 3-game series. The O's are home to the Tampa Bay Rays Wednesday evening at 6:35 for Game 3 of a 3-game series. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.
This is a dog-ass competitor.